Welcome back once again to Jack's Tech Corner. This is Photography Weekly, episode number 25. First up this week, we're going to work with workflow from camera to editing. Next, I'm going to show you the processes I've been using to go with raw images versus a JPEG and what we can do with those. And we're going to be playing this week a little bit, and I know not everybody has it. You can download the trial version. We're playing this week with Lightroom is what we're going to be working in. And last, we're going to look at using exposure. We talked about exposure last week. So this week we're going to look at using exposure and being able to adjust it to get just the right picture you want without using flash. So let's go ahead and get started with Photography Weekly, episode number 25. Okay, very good. Well, we got the opener, so that's good. That's a start anyway. And if you guys remember last week about the cup of coffee, we got the coffee cup here. And being I'm out, I had to go down to the actual, I guess, the cafeteria here. And I was able to pick up a pot of coffee to bring it back with me. So I'm ready. I'm ready to go for this show. And, everything's good. So last night what we did was we were attending a wedding, not working it, just attending a wedding. And I'm trying to get this volume up a little bit. Hopefully everybody can hear me okay. I am going to bring the chat room back up just to see real quick. Okay, so is the audio okay? I got the chat room open right now, so I'm kind of looking at it here. Just seeing if the audio is okay there. Dan had to get your coffee also. Good to go. Audio is good. Thank you, Jessica. I'm kind of in the bind where you was a few weeks ago. Just taking it for granted, but I wanted to make sure you can hear me okay. I'm using the little internal mic here on the laptop. Good deal. So now I'm going to minimize the chat room. And we will get moving on here with this week's episode. All right. Let me switch some screens around here. Sorry for the delays. Okay, so what we're going to talk about, so I was attending a wedding last night as a guest. Now as a guest, I'm able to pull the camera out, and if you see here, I did not bring the D7000 out of the house today. I actually brought, trying to get the, see here, see it? Right there. I brought the D80 out of the house. So that's what I was using last night, was the D80. With the pop-up flash, is all I used here. Just a pop-up flash. And I got some interesting shots. So I wanted to play around a little bit, and I thought that'd be a great show to do. I told the wife, I said, I think I'm going to do a show here from the room on the road and see what we come up with. So, when you do a wedding, the first thing you're going to know about doing a wedding is you're going to come home with a memory card, or like the last wedding where I had 4 memory cards filled. Had to go through about 1,000 pictures, and that's not, I'm not really making that up. That is true, about 1,000 pictures. And I needed a very, very, very rapid way to go through that 1,000 pictures, right? You can't do it. It's very, very hard to look at it through the organizer and then right-click and go into the full editor. And I am a big Photoshop Elements guy. You know that. Everybody out there knows that. But what I wanted to do now is show you how to use Lightroom. But talking about that, let's just back up 1 minute. And somebody did put on Facebook, did anybody see that Photoshop Elements 10 has not been released? So Photoshop Elements 10 is out there. You can't download the trial version yet, naturally. They tease you by putting it up there, and you can't check it out. But I think they added 5 new features, so it's something we're going to have to explore later on down the road. With that said, here's my memory disk. I'm going to plug it into the computer. We're going to switch over to my laptop, and we're going to go ahead and start this tutorial on. This is the import process into Lightroom, and then we'll go on from there. And also, just so you know, I am not taking any Skype calls today. When I'm working on one computer, it's just too hard to take Skype calls. So you're going to have to throw it in the chat room, and we'll just go there with any questions. Now we should be good here. We should just be seeing the desktop at this point, is what you should be seeing. Let me bring back the chat window. You guys can help me as I'm going along here. Okay. Everybody looking right now, you should be seeing probably the chat window. Is that correct? You are seeing the chat window. I'm just looking at the chat room here to see where we're at. Yes. Thank you, Jessica, very much. Perfect. Minimize this. Okay, so the memory card I put in already, it's going to tell you over here on the left. The source is the Nikon D80. That's the card itself. Then over here on the right is where you're importing it to. You're going to either copy it, move it, or add it. We're just making a copy, so it's going to copy the contents from our disk over to a folder. That's what I like about this. It's not the Elements itself creates a catalog or a database of all our images, where now this is actually making a folder of the images. Now we'll say into a subfolder, and we will call this road wedding, because I'm on the road anyway, so we'll just call it that. There's 84 pictures on this disk that I shot, so we are going to go ahead and import those now. And these are both shot in RAW and JPEG, so we can look at the differences. So once you do that, then all you have to do is come down here at the bottom, click on Import. And now it will import just like that. I just have a habit of taking pictures of the rooms that we visit. Just something I've done for a long time. So we're going to import these. And again, I'm glad everybody can stop by today. Sorry about the miscommunications on Facebook yesterday when I told you I wasn't doing a show. Then I told you later on in the evening that I was. And Jessica can tell you, you never know when you're on the road what a hotel's internet connection is going to be like, or a lodge, or wherever you're staying. The internet connection here is pretty solid. I was pretty impressed. So I told my wife, I said, I think that I'm going to go ahead and do the show, and that's what brought us to today. And that's why I posted that note last night that said I will be on today. So as this is importing, I don't know if anybody went to YouTube and watched my introduction to Windows 8 video I did yesterday. Yeah, Windows 8's coming, probably in about a year. But you might want to take a look at it, because it's not the Windows you're using today. It's definitely changing. So we'll just do this import here. I always wonder if somebody's in another room, like listening. Is that guy crazy? Is he talking to himself over there? You know, who knows how thick the walls are here. So we're still importing here. That's what I really wished on my screencasting software for is key combinations. You can switch cameras, so you don't have to keep bringing the interface up. I think that'd be a really nice addition to that software. Okay. This says the task is complete. So now, I'm not going to show you the room shots. Let's go here to this number 3 shot. And on the number 3 shot, as soon as you put your mouse over and click on it, you can see here that's NEF. Now that is the Nikon extension telling me that it's a raw image. I wanted to tell you the difference when you're working, and we talked about raw images before, but I don't think we really looked at the differences between raw and a JPEG, especially when it pertains to Lightroom 3. And again, I know a lot of you don't have Lightroom 3 out there, but I would suggest if you're doing a lot of photography work, especially like June, you just did a wedding recently, and I know some of you other folks do some events. When you're shooting, 100 pictures or 200 pictures, You have to find a way to rapidly go through them, and that's kind of where Lightroom fits the bill. I told you before I probably wouldn't buy it, but now that I tried the trial version out for a while, I thought now's probably the time to get it because it makes it so easy to work with your loads of pictures. So let's go into the developer side. Developer side is the editor. Let's go ahead in here. And it's going to open up the picture into the center of the screen here. Alright. So at this point, I took this shot just because I wanted something, and my wife said, "Why are you taking this?" The window made a really, really nice, easy frame shot. So if I wanted to take this picture, one thing I've seen about those, when I took it, I probably want to crop it down a little bit. So to crop this, I don't have to go into any developer or anything. I don't have to go into the editor. I just simply hit my crop button up here, and I just move in these little sides, just like this. Then when I close that crop button, there you go, it's cropped out. Now it's actually framed, and that was just an interesting shot to grab that like that. So that's how easy it is to start using Lightroom. Now naturally you can click on here and there's different things you can do with aspect ratios, but I'm not really getting into a big Lightroom tutorial. This is more just we're importing and now we're editing all in one package. And it's really, really nice. I've used it a lot for real simple edit type stuff. You're not going to do a lot of fancy stuff like we do in Elements with it, but it does make it really nice to start working with your pictures very rapidly. We can move down here to different pictures on the lines on the bottom. If you see something you don't like, as you can see, I didn't have any flashes with me. I didn't have my 70 by 200 lens, so this is kind of camera shake you get here. I was pretty far away. If you don't like it, you could always right-click on it and delete the photo. Then it's going to ask you if you want to delete it from the disk. Yeah, you do, because it's a bad picture anyway. Same here, you probably delete these ones. You know what I mean? Get rid of those. Now this picture here also is a raw image. Now what I wanted to show you with the raw image that you can do that you can't do when you shoot JPEG. Remember, when you shoot JPEGs, what's going to happen is it's compressing the image. It does its best guess at the coloring, at the white balance, if you have it set on auto, and all the other settings on your camera. It does the best possible guess, and it compresses that image down. What we're doing here is we're shooting raw, so we're shooting a very large file, but it's retaining all the information about that particular shot. So we can come back into the editor, such as Lightroom, and you can do this in Elements, because when you pull it in, there's a raw editor, but you have to go into each individual image one at a time. It's time consuming. I've done it. But you can go over here, and you can do different things with the color saturation. Like I've used this a lot. Just pick out a white part on the table here somewhere. You can automatically see the colors start to pop on everybody. It automatically made that image better because it made everything pop up. We can do exposure. You can see it's way underexposed. We'll bring the exposure up. But what's really nice is your white balance. You can pick out any one just like you're still shooting this in the camera because you set this on raw. That's where raw images you're going to win by shooting raw. And play with them. You can look at different images or different white balance settings to see what's going to happen. There's one. If I set it on cloudy, you can see it gives a little bit. And we talked about the shade. We talked about white balance, and you see there makes a very blue tint. If you remember a few weeks ago, we looked at those pictures that had the blue tint on them. White balance is directly proportional to the temperature of the light. That's how they figure it. So if you can find those on Google, and I don't know them as well as I probably should know them. But a fluorescent light has a certain temperature rating, an incandescent bulb has a certain temperature rating, and that's how you get these different shots. Next, you can add fill light if you want. You can fill that picture up. And I was shooting this. I shot this purposely to really dramatically make it a mess. I think I shot it at this one's actually shot at 1600 ISO, so you can see some of the graininess coming through it. All right. Clarity. A lot of people say in Lightroom clarity does a lot, and I don't know. I haven't been too impressed with it. I haven't really used it a whole lot. And saturation I use a lot just to saturate the colors even more. Now once you're done, we don't have to click save or anything. It retains the information as a separate file with the original picture. And that separate file maintains all the information you're going to need for that picture. And I don't know if you can see it or not right down here in the bottom with this little insignia on here. It tells you that the exposure settings were changed. Just like over here, it tells you that the crop, it was cropped. So that's how you see those, if you can see those not at the bottom. Not if I can bring those up or not. Let's try. Let's try this here. See what happens. So here's a little crop one right here. And over here, it's telling me in that particular picture that the exposure's changed. You can see that there. Let me go back down. Okay. I want to get to the ones that I said maybe I'll post later if you guys want to play with it. And some of these I found in the room. Sometimes look in your settings when you're in a room because I noticed that this background and this wall almost resembled just a background like you would use for photography. So I wanted to take a few pictures there of Mrs. Jack. So, but you can see how the background worked out really well. That turned out perfect for the background. All right, let's see here. The pictures I wanted to show you that I was playing around with is right here. I was trying to capture this image and I was working with it and I started shooting down because, you know, the wife of Mrs. Jack said, I want you to shoot down into this. So now we're going to also be talking about, we're still looking at Lightroom, but now we're also going to talk a little bit about, and let me see what my notes say here. It actually is, that's actually the final thing we're talking about. So I don't want to go too fast here for you. Let me bring up the chat room and see if anybody has any questions right now. See what's going on here. Okay, was the last tutorial on RAW? Okay, Jessica, very good. Yeah, that's what I wanted to show you, that it is a lot easier to do your raw images, or any image actually, to be honest, in Lightroom. And I'm not a fan of Adobe pushing us to buy all these different products, but it's a very good product. You were talking about Windows 8. Yes, Windows 8 is coming. June, you wish you had more time to play with the photos, but you're in the process of moving rooms around in your house. So your mom can come live. Very nice that you're having your mother come live with you. I understand, and I know that's a big undertaking. So hopefully you'll have time after that happens to start having your, getting everything in there and getting your mom all set up there. I'll bring a shot back up here. Anyway, like I was saying, I was explaining with Lightroom that the photographers worked on this project with Adobe Because at one time when you used film, you had the negatives, you would lay them on a light table. And that's how they would look at those negatives, on that light table. So that's kind of where Lightroom came from. That's how they figured out to bring that out. Now's a good time to just bring up a quick word here from one of our sponsors. It's Weebly. If you need a website, I know we talked about one-in-one before. One-in-one gets a little bit hard if you looked at it to create your websites. But I found a great new place to create your websites called Weebly, WEEBLY.com. Now you can set up a website. You can actually have 2 websites, absolutely free. And then if you want to create more websites or do more interesting things for them, I would suggest to go ahead and get the paid version. Now if you're going to use this great tool to create your websites, by all means stop by my website, jackstechcorner.com, which is built on Weebly, and just click the link on the left hand side. So if you look at my new website, and we talked about this before, all you want to do is go down here on the left hand side and click here and go ahead and set your account up today on Weebly.com and get started with your website. It's real easy to add pictures. That's where I did all this at. If you want to see one of my other websites, I'll show you another one of them real quick here. If you want to see some of my wedding pictures, since we talk about pictures on this show, that wasn't where we wanted to go there. Hold on a second. There you go. You can also go to memoriesbyjack.weebly, WEEBLY.com. You can look at some of my sample weddings here from the past. And I just put a link in there so people know how to access their pictures once they're taken. I use full online developing for that. But like I said, if you want to, at least go to my website and click on the link here on the side and go ahead and start your website today. I'd like to see what you come up with. Okay, very good. Is it an Adobe program? Lightroom is, absolutely. Lightroom is $150 right now. I think 4 is coming out. I'm not too sure if 4 is coming out. Another place you can find Lightroom actually is if you look for OEM versions on eBay. You'll find them cheaper. It's a good place to buy it. Wow. Wait, yeah. Yeah, and Jessica, it may or may not be for you for actually doing the with the, it may or may not be for you depending on how many pictures you shoot. I know you do a lot of photography work. If you start shooting more and more in RAW, then you're going to find it may be needed. You might want to use it. I would suggest just download the trial version and see if it fits. That's what I did. See if it fits for you. And if it works, then go ahead and maybe think about buying a copy. Would be the thing to do. And it is an Adobe program. It is Adobe. It's actually Adobe Photoshop program. It's Adobe Photoshop Lightroom. Fabian, you said you go through GoDaddy, but it's hard because you don't understand how to create a website. There you go. That's why you want to look into that Weebly. Now, you can use GoDaddy. I still use one-on-one to register my domain names. They hold my domain names. But when you type in Jack's Tech Corner, then it's actually forwarded over to the Weebly servers. They could have picked a better name, I guess. Yeah, and GoDaddy never had very good customer service. I used to use them years ago, and the reason they don't is because they're so big. They don't need to worry about customer service anymore. People just go there because they got all the football games, the NFL games, and if you can advertise on there, people's going to go there. Jessica, you're very welcome. Yeah, download the trial version, play around with it. See what happens. Okay, time to fill the coffee cup. Move on to exposure. We'll have a look at that. This is the way to hold coffee, I tell you what. Really, and doing a show on the road all at the same time. Yeah. Then when the show's over, I get to go to breakfast. So that's a better time. All right. Let me just say the shout outs here to welcome everybody to the show here, since we didn't do that yet. Andrew, welcome aboard. Dan, always good to see you each and every week. David B., I think you're new to the show. I haven't seen you in there before, I don't believe, but welcome. Hope you stop back every Sunday. Fabian is a longtime watcher, as well as Jessica, longtime watcher and co-host, and June, the newest wedding photographer to our group, and she's getting started there. We are missing a few regulars this week, and I know that Kevin couldn't be here. He said he's out riding quads with his daughter, so that's where he's at. He's taking pictures, of course, and that's what he does. Okay, everybody, let's get a move on here. Let me change these screens again. I'd love to have 2 laptops to carry around to do this show. That would be nice. All right. Now is the part of our show that I was coming to tell you about exposure and how we can use it. We talked last week about bracketing and how bracketing is used to actually do HDR. Because if you remember, we were shooting a low exposure, a normal exposure, and a high exposure. Now you can also do that with flash. You can set your camera up and you can do it with flash, shooting a low flash shot, a normal flash shot, and then a high flash shot. I played with it, not enough to actually demonstrate it yet. Maybe we'll look at that next week, depending on what kind of work I do this week with the camera. But as we were sitting at the table last night, my wife looked at this centerpiece and she said, wow, that would make a really nice picture. And I thought, yeah, it would, but if I shot it with the flash, and I'm going to show you that, it's going to blow this picture out of the water. So we're sitting there, and I took multiple shots, as you'll see, of this picture. And I started shooting this with a 1600 ISO, is what I was shooting at. Now, 1600 ISO this close up, I'm not getting any noise. I'm not seeing any noise on the picture at all. No graininess. It looks pretty clear. And you want it to be like this with the lights in the water and everything. You want it captured and the candles being lit without overexposing the shot. So you had to be careful of how you're taking this picture. Now, when she looked at this on camera, she goes, well, that's a really neat looking shot. But the flowers are really blacked out. You can't see them because the light's coming up from the bottom and it silhouetted our flowers. So I said, well, that's fine. Let's turn the flash on. Now, that took all of the mysterious look out of the picture. It took the light that's underneath that green stuff there in that bowl completely out of the picture. I basically turned that light off with my flash. And again, this is just the on-camera flash. That's just how it worked. So then I started playing around a little bit with my exposure settings. And I thought, well, if I can turn the exposure up a little bit. So I increased the exposure by, and let me see if it shows you here. The exposure setting on this one right here is showing me that it's actually 0. Now that one there, I totally blew that out because I raised the exposure setting so high that I basically ruined the whole picture. And as I worked with the camera and with the exposure settings, well, I started playing around with the wine glass here too, just to get that shot to fill, see what it was going to feel like. And what you're seeing here though is just setting the exposure at different settings. and you guys probably know, but I wish Lightroom would give me better idea of what the exposure was set on. It says the exposure, but it's saying 0 all the time, and I know it's not actually 0. It wasn't 0 settings. The exposure was higher than that. But I was just going +1 and +2 to see what I would get. Then what I did was some minus shots. This is actually a -2. And then this was probably a +2. So my best shot out of the evening came Is it this shot? No. Try and go back here. Let's backtrack and find that shot I liked. That was with the flash. It was actually that shot where I just got the exposure. I believe I was at a +1. So I can just get the color coming out of those flowers by not losing anything around it. There you go on that one. And that one was probably about the best. That was a +2 exposure. Again, no flash. So it gave me that nice shot with the light coming under it, but we're still exposing the actual flowers themselves. Now what you got to be careful of here, you're going to have this, is a little bit of camera shake. You got to watch that. You got to watch the camera shake because I wasn't using a tripod. So that's going to be our lesson, I thought, for this week. It would be a good lesson for you to start practicing. Set some objects up. You could even use candles. You can use wine glasses, whatever you want. On your table somewhere where you can take some nice pictures. Take some close pictures like this. Turn the lights up. Don't use the flash. And play with your exposure settings. So we want to see that on Facebook this week with different exposure settings. And maybe make a notation of which ones are which and tell us on Facebook what you did and how you did it. And also try to play around a little bit with shooting raw. Shoot your images with raw, and then you can edit them and play around with those also. So scroll this up a little bit. Now you see here, this one was only shot in JPEG, and if you can see over here, let me see if I can bring this up. When I click the white balance, it's only giving me as shot, auto, or custom. That's it, because I shot it in JPEG. Try and see if I shot one of the other ones in RAW. I don't see it. Oh, maybe that was it right there. Right here's one. So this, if you can see this when I look at the white balance now, let me pull this up. You can see I shot this in camera raw, and that made it so I can adjust all my white balance settings and do a lot more with that picture, such as change the white balance settings. There's a daylight shot. There's a cloudy shot. Shade. Tungsten. And actually tungsten looks pretty good. So there you have it. Okay, let me bring these cameras back up here. Okay folks, so that is your lesson for this week. Go ahead out there and shoot some pictures just using your exposure. Don't use any flash at all. It can even be outdoor shots. Go outside in the evening and try to use just your exposure settings and get used to those. Shooting higher exposures and lower exposures. If you hear that phone in the background, that's not mine. Mine died. That would be the wife's phone, wherever it is. Okay, anyway. So we're going to wrap this show up this week, and we'll see you back here next Sunday. Next Sunday, though, it is mine and Mrs. Jack's wedding anniversary next Sunday. So I think I'll do a show. I'm sure we'll do a show because my wife is big into do your show, get your show on. So we will put the show on next Sunday, and then after that we'll go out and have a nice celebration dinner or something. We're also going to go to a festival. It's an Apple Fest next week, and I do their website, and we'll be taking pictures there. So maybe I'll have some pictures next week of something there. So just remember, folks, thanks for joining in this week with Jack's Tech Corner. Sorry it's a little bit different of a show, being on the road with no Skype calls. Think of your questions for next week. I'd love to have your Skype calls for next week, and some questions. It does help the show out. If you want to be a guest host, like Jessica was a few weeks ago, and like Kevin was quite a while ago, let me know sometime through the week, and I'll get you on. I'll show you how to use Skype, and we'll talk about it, and we'll get you on the webcast here. So thanks for joining me here for this episode, and until next week, folks, keep those cameras clicking, and the shutters going, and the editors editing. And download and try out Lightroom. And go watch my video on Windows 8. I think you'll be interested to see what it's going to look like. I'll see you back here next week on Jack's Tech Corner. Bye for now. Take care.